So here we are with a rather interesting one. This is a Thürey typewriter made in 1909. At least it was designed during that time by Edward Thürey. And you can see it has an interesting kind of keyboard which was maybe the last hurrah of trying something different from QWERTY or QWERTZ that sadly has already been established too deep and entrenched too deep to do away with it, and people got used to it. So the Thürey kind of was doomed from the start. Edward Thürey did put some thoughts into designing the keyboard so the load would be shared equally across the right and the left hand. So yeah, could have been quite the improvement if things were a little earlier, or he had more luck. So as you can see, the machine is actually quite wide, which is partly or mainly due to the fact that the carriage cannot move past this point because of the mechanism cover here, and can only extend over the base of the frame on this side. So in order to write across an entire page, you have to have a machine of a certain width. So for the actual mechanics, you can see the carriage is kind of standard. We have a carriage release key, put it in focus, carriage release key here, which would allow the carriage to move freely. Ideally you'd cushion it with the hand, but I'm holding the camera right now. There's the space bar that advances the carriage by one. Kind of looks like a telegraph key, right? And then we have two shifters for the type cylinder, which is for capitals here, and for the numbers and special characters here. And you can also lock them in place with this little lever, which works for both of them. Yeah, and of course the keys itself with interesting mechanism underneath. There is a kind of step drum underneath here, which serves the purpose of locking or blocking other keys from being pressed when you pressed one key, because it turns and kind of disables other keys from hitting down onto the mechanism. The actual character selection on the wheel is done with this little lever that's underneath here, next to this row of screws that goes into the type levers. You can see the lever pushes down on this little lever, which in turn moves the mechanism over here, responsible for turning the cylinder. And once that cylinder has moved where it needs to be, mechanism over here actuates a little hammer at the back of the impression strip, which is quite similar to the Hammond system of writing. And that pushes the impression strip and paper towards the cylinder and makes an impression of a character that's selected by the key. You can see there's two little ink rolls that serve to put the paint on the actual cylinder to make the impression. And you can just easily remove those by just pushing back this little spring, flat spring, and you can just take it out for re-inking and just reseat it. A little star here is actually quite nice. I like that. So this machine has the serial number 1373, and yeah, researching it wasn't too easy. There's a little bit of information, but when I looked at my 1932 Ernst Martin, there was actually nothing in it about the Thürey. Only in the later version, the 46 revised version by Johann Meyer, there is a mention of the Thürey and a little bit of write-up about it. It says, as you can see, neither Martin or Meyer actually saw a Thürey live. Meyer is just quoting Weitlinger for it. And he says it was produced was perhaps produced for some time, but vanished in 1912. Yeah, which is not surprising, considering how the machine was built and how it's a bit complicated and the keyboard is non-standard. So, if we look underneath it, you can see that step drum and the escapement. And how that works is each key presses down on that escapement mechanism. And you can see that selector lever here, that kind of crescent shaped next to the step drum for the characters, and you can see how the escapement is pushed here, just acting like a kind of seesaw, putting the moving dog out of the way and the static dog in, and that's how the carriage is being actuated. And if you press the space bar, then that just directly pushes on that escapement system here. Yeah, it also has a ding. Well, it has a bell, which sounds quite nice. And yeah, it's, I think, mostly there's a massive drum here. I had to replace the drawband because, well, it was rotten, and now it works again. So let's put in some paper, shall we? What's that? Real piece of paper. Let's see if I can do that in one hand. Yes. There we go. Let's type a little something. Let's see if I can do that one-handed. I actually don't know really the purpose of this little line indicator, because you can put that in 3 different positions, and it's just, as you can see here, it's just moving this frame to a different angle. There's no other mechanic or something connected to this, so I really don't know. Just get a little more light. Why they implemented this in that way. Because when you look at it, how the position of impression is. Let me show you with a H or something. You can see maybe, yeah, it's not really much visible from above or from the machine. So yeah. Okay, so let's try something. Did it write properly? Well, the E is a bit shifted, but I think that was just me not pressing right. Let's try that again. Yeah, it didn't go all the way down this time. Yeah, I think that's better. Focus. Yes. You can see the E is a bit battered on the cylinder. It's been used quite extensively by someone who apparently wrote a bit on the machine. So if we maybe I can set the camera down a bit so you can see a bit more underneath what happens when I press buttons. Buttons. Oh, we like them. Spacebar doesn't do much. But if I press, for example, an X or the J, you can see those are the most extreme keys on the keyboard which cause the cylinder to move furthest. So you can see this little toothed arm is moving the step drum down into its position. And this here is actually what makes the hammer and the escapement move. So if we look a bit more underneath, maybe I can put on some more light, so you can see the levers and the stuff moving during impression. We look here, you can see the indexing wheel underneath the cylinder, and there's a little lever over here that locks into the indexing wheel when you press a character, so it's always shifted and turned the right way. As you can see, sometimes, like for example the T here, this doesn't hit right into the spot, instead hits the tooth and just goes in if you hit it a little harder. I think the way to adjust this would be adjusting those little set screws that are underneath the levers, these ones here, because that actually would allow the little selector arm here to be pushed further down or left further up when you hit that. And I think a little adjustment would move that indexing gear into the right position. So it gets hit by that selector lever, so selector enforcement lever, just at the right spot, so it doesn't stick or doesn't hit the teeth surface. Yeah, well, as you can see, it writes somewhat. The ink wheels here, the ink pads are quite dry and malformed, so the impression isn't too good. I'm not getting any even inking on the surface of the cylinder at the moment, so that has to be worked out. But overall, for a machine that age, I think it's not too bad. So here it is, Thürey. And apparently it was sold or at least serviced by Schreibmaschinenindustrie Paul Günther in Berlin. And it says here special typewriter repair shop. So it is a special typewriter, yeah, for sure. Bye.